In the Albemarle bomber, the plane was very quiet. I know I was sitting there just hoping I could do my job the way I'd been taught. And I think everybody was the same because I didn't hear any noise at all. Then when we arrived near the French coast, we could see these flashes as the aircraft shells were bursting. You could see the lights in these portholes that we couldn't sit beside. And then the plane started to go this way and that way. We started rolling around, and eventually that stopped, and he leveled out again, and then the light came on, and then it seemed like almost immediately the red light came on, which meant jump. There's something wrong here, but anyway, out we went, and that's when I discovered I was on my own. But I do remember the guy straddling the hole and the guy sitting in the far end facing me. And when he disappeared, and I don't know what happened, the confusion that when the flap of the half of the hole was closed, the Bren gunner must have grabbed it as he was going out, and he didn't completely get out. And the next guy jumped on him, so the two of them must have gone close together. Whether or not their chutes opened separately or not, I have no idea. From then on, there was only 4 of us left, and I think I was number 8. And we just squiggled forward, and I dove out, and I never did meet any of the fellows that were in that stick. Well, I never felt afraid. Don't know why, maybe I'm stupid. But it helped. And there was always the other guy that was getting it, not me.
Okay.
And that's everybody had that attitude, and it's always the other guy that gets it. And when you ask, where's so-and-so, the next morning, he got it last night. And you say, oh, tough. And that's it. I lack religion. As a matter of fact, I was on a patrol once with a group, and we just left a service. And we came to this hedge, and I remember we opened it up, the hedge, to look through it, and it was there giving service to a bunch of German troops. And what the hell kind of country is this, where where we have religion and they have religion, and yet they're killing each other. So I gave up on religion from that time on. Okay. Oh, I married in the church, but just following protocol. I remember. Now, the Albemarle bomber was a beauty. It had no round hole like the balloon in the Whitley aircraft, a 3-foot diameter hole that you slip through. If you didn't arch your back, clear the chute, it would tip you forward and you ring the bell on the far side. The Albemarle bomber had a bathtub-sized hole, and you could jump out any way you liked. And Canadians being innovative, we had 2 guys straddle the hole, 1 foot on each side of the bathtub, one sitting at each end of the bathtub. So that's 4 guys. They just went out and zoomed. The number 1 just closed his legs, he was gone. Number 2 the same. The other guy sitting at the edge of the hole just pushed off, and away they were gone. The rest of us had to shuffle forward on our seats because there was no headroom. And we dived out, but the trouble was, because of the evasive action, we got out slower. And you can imagine a plane flying over 100 miles an hour so he wouldn't get hit. What happens to the guys who land on the ground? They're so far apart. I never did see any of the guys that I jumped with. Not that night. I was about 6 or 7 miles from the drop zone where I was supposed to land, and that's probably why I'm here, because I missed the action. Out of the 120 men that were of the company, only 35 fought and did all the objectives that the 120 were to do. It shows you what good training will do. Now, like I said, I survived. We had about 80 fellows picked up, straggling, trying to find their way over from in the night. They were picked up by the German patrols, but I kept quiet, hid in ditches and under shrubs or whatever I could find, and never made a sound. So I got away with it. And when it was almost daylight, I met 3 other fellows from the company, and we found where we had to go. We had to go east. We crossed the river, the bridges, and went to the crossroads because we knew we would be too late for the action. We got to the crossroads, and I reported in the company headquarters, and they said, you're to dig in with, they pointed where my fellows that were left from the platoon were, and I was to dig in, and they said, before you dig in, go find the Germans and report back. So I went along this farm field, stepped over one of our guys, a sniper, who had been shot in the forehead, and eventually opened bushes on the top of a hedge, saw a farmhouse across the road with all Germans milling about, so I figured that's what they wanted to know. I reported back, and the only artillery we had was the Navy ships. But they ruined that. They managed to hit that house, ruined it. All that was left was craters because I was there a couple of days later on a patrol. And June. Lucky to have missed that one because when the theater came to say the word on the theater, all pairs returned to base immediately. I left the theater and there was a policeman outside, put me on the train and back to camp. And when I got back to camp, we were only there about a day and we were told to go back on leave again. Because we were told that Market Garden was a dead loss.
Okay.
I didn't find out about the Poles until after I spoke to them. After the war. I've met a lot, there's a lot living in the Toronto area. And I spoke to a guy who was involved. And there's also a Polish book written by Poles explaining that what the Polish general had said. He said, just put a division across. He said, they're getting low on ammunition and manpower. He says, I can tell. And they didn't believe him. They threw a battalion across and lost 600 men. So it was a bad deal. Well, that was September. We did a lot of training because we had over 400 new men and they wanted to bring everybody up to snuff. So we trained hard for almost 3 months before we got the call to go into the Ardennes. We didn't have we only had the same uniforms that we had in France, and it was cold as blazes. So we froze, but I learned something that when a shell hits frozen ground, the shrapnel is a lot worse than where the shell gets buried in the soft ground, explodes. Anyway, when we heard the shells coming, boy, did we get out of there quick. We were supposed to, I remember one time, the shower crew came up with trucks with mobile showers. We were to get new clean underwear and have a shower, but the shells started coming down and the truck drivers took off. We never got a we were